So in this video, we've got order of transformations. So order of transformations, the first thing you do is horizontal shift. Okay. Number 2, you do stretching, compressing. Number 3, you've got reflections. Right? And number 4, you've got the vertical shift. Okay, now order of transformations is the same as order of operations. It works the same way. It's PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, it all falls back. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, then subtract. Okay, so the order of operations comes back to what you do first in your transformations. So let's take a graph, all right? Okay. So what I'm going to do try to graph this like that. Here we go. Okay, so I've got a g of x equal to negative 2 square root x plus 1 plus 3. And so I want to know what are all the things that are happening to this, okay? So the first thing I take care of is the horizontal shift. Now, I need to know what the parent function is. Who's the daddy here? Who's the parent? The parent here, the parent function, is the square root of x function. Okay, how do I know? I see the square root x in here. Okay, so the parent function looks like this. Okay, starts at 0, 0 at the origin, and it goes out. All right, now, what's happening? There is a horizontal shift to this. What does this tell me? Inside here, this tells me I go to the left 1. Okay, so I'm going to take my graph. Oh, that's kind of hard to see. Let me do orange. So I'm going to take my graph and I'm going to shift it to the left 1. Okay, so that tells me to go to the left 1. The next thing is the stretching, compressing. Okay, with a 2 out front, that is going to stretch it so it doubles everything. All right, so double 0 is still 0, but double of 1 becomes 2, and then double that 2 becomes 4, and so on. So this is what the new graph looks like. Okay, now the next thing is the reflection. The negative number tells me that I reflect across the x-axis. So everything that was positive becomes negative. Okay, well, negative 0 is still 0, right? So we're still here. But this positive 2 becomes negative 2. Okay, and so that gets reflected downward like that. Okay, now what am I doing? So the last thing is the vertical shift. The vertical shift right here tells me to go up 3. Okay, so I go up 3. So I go up 1, 2, 3. So that tells me that I'm going to run through like this. Let's see, I guess 2 down over this way. And so this is my final graph right here. Okay? So that's what the final graph looks like. So that's my g of x. So when you do your answer, all right, you can have that as your work to help you. transfer it over, but you're going to have the -1, 3 marked here. And I want you to get the axis, the y-axis looked like here was like 0, 1. Okay. And so that gives you an idea what that looks like. Now, the question becomes, I want you to write out, describe in words what happened to the function. So what happened here? Well, first was the horizontal shift. There was a horizontal shift left 1, period. Okay, or you can put a comma if you want to, since we're going to have multiple things. What was the next one? Stretch or compress. With a factor of 2, that's a stretch. There was a vertical stretch by a factor of 2. Now you might be saying, well, there's a -2 in front, Mr. Clark. Why is it just 2? That negative tells me that I'm going to reflect it. Okay? So what else do I have? So there was a horizontal shift left 1, a vertical stretch by a factor of 2, a reflection across. Well, what axis did we cross over? We crossed over the x-axis. Okay, and then the last thing was the vertical shift. And a vertical shift, well, what is the vertical shift? Up 3. Okay, so what you might be looking for is, I might be looking for this. Write out this sentence, 1 point for that. Write out this sentence, 1 point for that. Write out that sentence, 1 point for that. And write out this sentence, 1 point for that. And maybe I'll give you a point for the graph, right? So out of a 5-point question, really the bulk of the points, those 4 points, come from writing out the sentence, okay? So if you can read this sentence, it tells you what to write. Horizontal shift left 1, vertical stretch factor 2. This negative here tells me that there's a reflection across the x-axis, and then this +3 tells me I shift the graph up 3 units. Cool.